Hi guys, it's Laura at Sheer Passion. Thanks for listening. I just wanted to talk to you about honesty today. Honesty is such a hard thing to get, especially with ourselves. I was talking to Joshua about how difficult of a subject it is to talk about because honesty is always something that we expect to get from others. But I've talked about this before. How can we give something that we don't have, and how can we get it from someone else? How can we identify something from someone else if we've never identified it in ourselves? Honesty is probably the hardest thing that I've ever tried to conquer in my whole entire life, especially because I've told you before that I've come from a toxic family. People don't want to be honest about that. It was very hard to be focused in school because of being overweight. People didn't want to be honest about me being a teen or a young adult being overweight because there's so many adults that are overweight. Then we didn't want to talk about finances because finances in the United States of America is looked at as if from the age of 16 to about the age of 30, 35, if you put things on credit cards, it's just the way of life. So we don't have a lot of people who want to be really honest about how we spend our money and how much money can kind of control relationships, including the ones that we have with ourselves. I know what it's like to feel less than. I know what it's like to believe that your dreams aren't going to happen, or that you're not going to be thin enough, or you're not going to be beautiful enough, or you're not going to be smart enough. You're never going to find the right guy. Your marriage isn't going to be stable enough. I understand that. I understand. I had those feelings this morning. I have those feelings on a daily basis, and I continually try to talk it out with my husband or talk it out with myself. I talk it out with God just the same way that you and I are talking right now. I continually mull over these things in my head and I go, why is it so difficult to have honesty? Why is it that when my husband and I are taking a look at ourselves naked, walking out of the shower, not in a sexual way, but in an honest way about how we can change the body mechanics? What can we work on today? It's very hard for my husband and I to be completely honest. I like to be brutally honest with myself about what I can change, what I can tweak. He tends to be on the side of being a little bit more sensitive towards himself. Instead of coming right out and saying what he could change or what he wants to see change, he wants to hear himself just accept. Because we've learned that acceptance is better, right? That whole fake it till you make it, learn to accept yourself. There's parts of those sentences that I love, but I'm also very drawn to this thing called honesty. Honesty is the best policy. We've heard of that, except if honesty doesn't come from a loving side, from an ultimate side of love. God is love. How do we expect to give it to other people, especially when passive-aggressive evil things are happening in our society? And how do we expect other people to give it back to us? Does that make sense? So if I wanted to talk to a client of mine, let's take, for example, a client that comes in with hair, okay? She brings me a picture of what she wants her hair to look like. She looks nothing like the picture. She doesn't brush her hair. She doesn't put on makeup. She doesn't even own a flat iron. And she brings in this flawless model who has ombre ends and uses organic shampoo, and Kevin Pave was her hairstylist. And honestly, at that point, what I'm feeling is, you've got to be kidding me. Insert any word you want there. You've got to be kidding me, right? Because Jesus himself could come down out of heaven and create that miracle here for you today, but Laura works here. You don't brush your hair, you don't brush your teeth, you don't put lip gloss on, and I'm no celebrity hairstylist. I live in Hummelstown. I don't actually get to work on celebrities. The reality is, that would be coming from the side of what? Not love. It wouldn't be coming from the side of love for myself because I gain nothing. Could I work in California? You better believe it. Do I want to work in California? No. What can I tell her that's honest, but that comes from the side of love? Well, she has to trust me, first of all, to sit in my chair. I'm a very intimate small salon. So it's not like you are going to just get some random hairstylist when you call me. You know you're getting me. I've learned to tell the client, we need to pick out what you really see in this picture. And sometimes it's just that the model's beautiful and we allow her to be that way. And then we all have to move on. Honesty is the best policy. Because the client and I are not fighting, and because the client and I have not gouged each other for years, there are some clients that have done that, and there are some clients that, and myself, that have had to part ways. And that's okay. We're human beings. That's honest. There are times where I have learned inside of my own head when I'm standing behind the chair, just the journey that I have been on has allowed me to be honest with myself. So because I'm honest with myself about the first thing when my feet hit the floor, how does my body feel? Who's in charge of my body? What do I want to get out of my body today? What are my goals for tomorrow? How do I feel about myself? I don't always feel like I'm at the level that I want to be at. That's okay. I love my husband. That's where he inserts, "You're amazing." I love that about him. But it's okay to not be at the levels that I want to be at, because it's okay to be persevering to a better self. The mediocrity that our media and our politicians and our neighborhoods are allowing has not allowed for people to feel that they are worthy of being better. And that's an honest statement. We are worthy of being better. But you can't talk to your girlfriend who's putting weight on in an honest manner unless you've dealt with your own weight. How have we learned to take care of our bodies? From childhood. We got that from our parents who surrounded us. One parent, guardians, no parents. Wherever we started from, that cluster, whatever you want to call it, who you lived with, if everyone got to the kitchen, if everyone got to the living room, and there wasn't this, "Laura, you are valuable, and we want you to pay attention to when you're hungry and when you're not hungry. Drink a lot of water. You need to hydrate." How do we know that we need to hydrate? Because we're human beings. Not because we're male or female, but because we're human beings. Long before you're 16 years of age, the body that you will be putting behind the wheel and the mind that you have has been cultivated from that circle. How can you expect the children, the young people, and the adults of today to choose honesty out of love? Let's say there was an even more difficult situation. There are neighbors down the street that are having a rough marriage, and we found out. We heard this rumor. Rumors usually come from a greater than 50% chance that something really is happening. Okay, let's not put these people down. Let's encourage them. Could we all go to talk to this couple about their marriage? Absolutely, we could. Let's add some really juicy stuff in there. Someone's having an affair. They're looking at porn. They've got credit cards galore. Their house is being remortgaged. Okay. They have children. The one son is doing drugs. The girl is, acting like a whore around town. Ooh, we got so much family issues here. And the dog. Then they got the dog. They drag it when they're bringing it out of the house. Could we go talk to them? Yes, we could. It would be more difficult if that couple was on my family tree than it would be just to have them be my neighbor. Why? Because for long periods of time, whenever I'm around other adults, when they saw these things happening or they saw these assaults in the relationships, remember, we can't relate to children, even our own children, when we haven't related to ourselves. We can't ask our children to obey when we haven't related to our disobedient self. That's illogical. Could I help the person down the street? I definitely can talk to them about how difficult marriage is, for sure. I can let them know that it's okay. I understand what's led to their brokenness, not truly understanding how God has made them, how God has designed them, how special and important they are. They didn't start each day with that thought. When is the last time that you got out of bed and thought, today is the day, Laura is special, this is the day that the Lord has made, and then you're just going to take it by the bull of horns? There's days where I don't feel like that. There's days where I accept that, and I'm so thankful to be alive, and I'm so thankful to love my job and to love my husband and to love my cats and to love my house. But there's just days where when you put your feet to the ground, you're just not uber excited. Okay, I agree. I don't fake it until I make it. I try to choose my attitude. Some days are bad. That's because I'm human. So how can I talk to somebody else about their bad day? I'd have to be honest with myself. So if I've been honest with myself about how I've been let down, how I've let myself down, how I've been disappointed, how I've sent out disappointment or I've disappointed others, how I've had good days, how I've had bad days, how I've had a marriage, how I've had a divorce, now I have a new marriage. I have all of these things. I've had dogs, I have cats, I've had cats, or I have had cats, trying to get right grammar on here. I understand what it's like to have funerals and birthdays and anniversaries. Why? Because I've been there and I've experienced them. Can I talk to other people about those things in their life and how they may not be going the way they thought they would go? Absolutely, I can, because I first had to sit down and really think about what happened when I went to the funeral, or what happened when I appeared at the anniversary party. What happened that week? The people that I saw at the grocery store who acted different in another location. Has that happened to anyone else? Absolutely. So what do you do when you get in the car? Is it all their fault? Have you been honest about the situation completely, about how you've chosen to treat? This is what happens when I get in the car and I'm disappointed about how my Christianity is set on the back shelf, when I see somebody that might need a little bit more extra love or concern, and when they don't give me that feeling like they're happy to see me. There are some days where instead of going, you know what, that's okay. Why should they be? Maybe I should go give them a reason to be happy to see me. I've also learned, because I tend to do my hair, I take care of my skin, I continually try to make myself appear like I'm ready for the day. It can be so offensive to other women. And I understand why. Because you do not feel like it's okay to love yourself. When your husband's not loving you, your children aren't loving you, you're not loving you, your job's not loving you, your boss isn't loving you, your girlfriend stopped calling, you've put on weight, the dog doesn't love you, the cat could care less, someone still has to do groceries, the laundry's piling up, the mortgage is eating you alive, you've got no time for a pedicure, spring's around the corner, church sucks, it's boring. I'm just throwing some of those things out there. That doesn't mean that everybody's experiencing that, but if we can be honest about what is really going on, hey, if we aren't suffering from something in that list, then you tell me what exactly it is. Because I'd like to know why I see very few people with a smile on their face. Remember, I understand what it is like to have a bad day. Every day, Hummelstown? Every day? Every person every day? Just here? Central Pennsylvania? I don't think so. That's not it. We have forgotten how honesty works. Honesty has to start when we're children. That way, each time we take a step and make a decision in our adult life, it is done with purpose. And when we run into relationships that are toxic, whether they be at college, out of college, in our family, who we're living with, who we're dating, who we're going to get married to, fiance, husband, wife, we can deal with those relationships before we walk out that door. And unfortunately, to get honesty back, you'd have to be dealing with another person's child, male or female, who has worked for years on being honest with themselves. The toughest thing in my marriage relationship is getting Joshua and myself to be 100% honest with the Lord, so that we can be honest with each other, so that we can gain ground for what our marriage is going to look like. I have Laura's perspective. I have Laura's brutal honesty and brutal thoughts, and my thoughts have thoughts on my thoughts. My husband is more sensitive, laid back. He's just happy to be alive. He's along for the ride. When it comes to his childhood, it's very painful. Mine is like a movie. I will play it back. I will slow it down. I will speed it up. I will stare at another character the whole entire movie just to see what that character is doing. I will continually analyze, because I find it fascinating to figure out just where the devil has gotten in and clouded our judgment. I also stepped away 17 years ago. I lived 17 years in the mess and 17 years out of the mess. Almost to the day. When my husband and I get together to talk about very difficult things, Joshua has to learn to be honest with himself before the Lord, before he can be honest with his wife. Thank goodness his wife loves to be able to go, no, that's not actually what's happening. Let's talk about this. Why are you so afraid to be honest when I'm so afraid not to be honest? Because if we don't go in and get all the cancer, we still got cancer. Let's not go in and get half the cancer and die from cancer. We need to sit in the circle and be 100% honest. How do we do that? It's very difficult. That's the part that's so difficult. I only want to encourage you that it is exactly what it sounds like. Difficult. And that's okay. I wanted you to know that I've gone through that. And I'm still worried about not being totally honest to face all of my problems. I have noticed that motivational speaking comes from the side of continually wanting to make you clap like a seal, that everything's going to be okay. Folks, it's only going to be okay when we take action. That's it. And sometimes that action can get tricky because the action is not coming from love. Usually when we think we want to change our life, I would try to manipulate my husband, right? If I wanted to change my marriage, I wouldn't change myself. I would change or ask something from my husband because then I think I get change. Instead of saying something purely honest to the spouse and asking him if we're going to make decisions to do that together. Honesty is very difficult because a lot of times the person who thinks they're in something is upset because of what other people are doing to them instead of what we've allowed people to do to us. My husband cannot mistreat me unless I've allowed those words to penetrate and mean something. If my husband would come into the camera right now and say, "You're ugly," now those words would be hurtful and they would be crass, and I really wouldn't want to hear them. But this is what my job is, being Laura and being a wife to a man. I have to stand there with the Lord and my spirituality, and I have to recognize what's truth in that statement, and if he said it doesn't mean it's true. Does he have control over me? Is my beauty hinged on the words of my husband? No, it isn't. It's very difficult for women to understand this. If my husband tells me that I'm beautiful, it does not mean that I'm beautiful. If my husband tells me that I'm ugly, it does not mean that I'm ugly. Two different statements. He has absolutely no control over me. But if I was not a strong, independent woman who is walking under what God has created for me to have a purpose, then I would have to say to him, that's not logical. We gain nothing from that. You've hinged yourself to me. If this boat goes down sinking, you're sinking with me. I do not believe that I am ugly because I try to not be ugly. I actually set out to not be ugly. So if he calls me ugly, that would be perplexing. I'd still have to ask him questions. Even if I chose to hear what he's saying, at the end of the day, do I, Laura, believe under a sovereign God that I am ugly? No, I do not. I don't have to be the most beautiful woman in the world. That's not the point. If he tells me that I am beautiful, isn't it that that's what I tried to be? I was already trying to be beautiful. For who? For myself. He then saw something that I did because I had been honest with myself. Laura, what would you like to look like? I would like to be beautiful. Why? Because I believe that when God made humans, he did not make us martyrs for the cause. I do not need black or dirt or ash on my head. I do not need to sit around singing Kumbaya when things need done around the house. I can sing while I'm doing. I totally get why beautiful and lust walk such a fine line, because so many people stopped walking the line of beauty that lust. The men and women who look beautiful have a tendency to remain in the lust box because so very few people believe in the beauty of life. Because you're not honest. You're not honest with how you feel. No one brushes their teeth to smile if they don't have anything to smile about. Once you're out of bed and you got that once and done thing and your teeth haven't fallen out yet, you're good. That's not true. But it is how you appear out there. Remember that honesty is something that you cannot give to somebody at the lowest fiber of who you are, smallest fiber of who you are, until you've gone there for yourself. You cannot talk to a spouse, a parent, or a sibling, a teacher, or a coworker about sex, drugs, finances, God, dreams, fears, realities, confusions, until you've gone there yourself. You cannot talk to children about disobedience and obedience and about growing up in the way that is right until you truly, genuinely understand the way that is wrong and how you've been there. We cannot act as a team in society, especially because the team starts inside of this home, and when we leave our houses, we go join other people's teams. Even if my home was set on fire with the Holy Spirit, I cannot assure that your families are. So the minute that I walk out that door, it would be better for me to be completely honest about how the enemy is working in myself and in my husband, and how we continually need to center ourselves on what God wants from us. The power of the team is that individually we serve him. That way, when we come together, honesty is not something that becomes a policy. It becomes a way of life. That is why honesty is not a diet in my house. And I have noticed the only time that other people are honest is when they're getting something out of it or they're manipulating the situation. If you ask somebody what is going on in their home, in their school, in their job, in their location, it's usually to manipulate, because if you find out what they are doing inside of their homes, their finances, their sex life, their children, their teachers, their PTA, their church, their vacation Bible schools, they've got a hand up when they're answering the question for everyone else. Honesty is something that our culture is lacking. Because if we had it in our homes, we would have already marched on Washington, folks. It takes action to deal with lies, passive-aggressive leadership. We don't have leadership in our homes. We don't have leadership outside of our homes. Each child, the moment they become an adult, whether you had a fantastic start with your parents or not, you cannot ensure that every single person you will run into in tech school, in college, and post-graduation will have your best interests at hand. And unless you were continually honest with yourself and where you were going, you are banking on a pipe dream. Honesty is so hard because I don't know many people that have a granule of it. It takes grit to be honest. You have to be able to flail yourself open and be completely naked in front of other people. Naked spiritually, emotionally. Not so much physically. Spiritually, emotionally naked. To be able to be honest with another person. And how are we all going to go up if we are not honest about who we are? It's not easy, but it's not impossible. Let me encourage you. If you are overweight, you are not honest with yourself. How long will you go on this journey before it stops? And who wants to duplicate what you're doing? If you are in debt and you have credit card debt up to your eyeballs, how long will you continue on that journey that it will bring you less debt, more wealth, less fear? Is it duplicatable? Who else wants to join you on that journey? How is your marriage relationship? Are you friends? Do you like each other? You can if you don't like yourself. If you don't mirror image any kind of fun, fantastic sitcom that we see on television, those people are acting out parts that don't even exist to go back to lives that don't mirror image what they're acting. And if you cannot honestly say that your relationship is honest, how you want to stay healthy, wealthy, and wise and live things together, so that the entire community gets better, because the moment that you get up, the devil's like, those people are awake again. Then you are not honest with yourself. You cannot put a man and woman under one roof and get great sex, bills paid, and till death do us part, folks. If you have been alive for longer than 5 minutes, you'll understand just how true that is. Yeah. Sex is a funny thing. It's actually harder to get than rich. When two people are loving each other, their sexual relationship is a journey. Orgasm from one person or one person over here does not mean that both people are being loved and they are in an intimate relationship. Getting pregnant is not being in love. You need to get your head on straight. We need to learn to see that we are due the right to be honest with ourselves. And I will tell you, seek out counsel on how to continue the journey on being honest to yourself before you dare expect it from another person. You will get nothing in your home from your children and your spouse when you get nothing from yourself. The journey of life requires that I, Laura, speak to my husband from my experience and everyone that I see, not because I think they've had the same experience, but because then we relate, which causes relationships. And if I had chosen to not be honest, what part of me are you friends with? What part of me are you relating to? And what is our relationship built on? If it isn't honesty, it's not worth a hill of beans to me. I have learned that not many people can attack the passive-aggressive evil behavior that is in this society because of what your name stands for or what your job is or how tall you are or how many kids you have, what your gender is. I don't care. If you cannot tell me how we are all going to be better, more loved, more understood, less confused, held to more accountability, more responsible, more joyful, have more smiles, treat more people with respect, live on less, be around more, then we haven't hit the nail on the head. That's honesty. It isn't always pretty, but that doesn't mean that we can't change. You know, I've been looking in mirrors for 17 years, working, 34 years alive. One thing about mirrors is they don't lie. And I will tell you this, I wasn't always honest when I looked in them. It's different today. If you can't look in the mirror and tell yourself that you are awesome, that you deserve to be better, that you are loved, you are important, that you are going to change somebody's life by changing your own, you are going to put a smile on your face, you are going to start each day making the devil quiver, then you haven't been honest. You have absolutely no idea why you're here. You are coping. You are surviving. You are not thriving. You are living on the edge. You are addicted to food. You are addicted to pleasure. And you are continually looking over your shoulder to see if somehow you're missing the next fix. It's painful. It's a very painful journey. I want to encourage you. I want you to sit down. I want you to talk with the Lord. I want you to cry out to Him. I want you to ask Him, how do I do this? My journey was counseling. My journey was continually peeling back the onion peels of my life. And onion's great because some people just don't like it. Some people think it smells. I gotta be honest with you. Onions are pretty cool. Raw, they're all right. Sauteed, man, people rave about them. Sometimes you've just got to get in the game. You've got to start peeling back those layers. You've got to start allowing things to change you because you're looking honestly at yourself. That's our goal. Our goal is to get right with ourselves so that the moment that we take a step forward, everybody's getting the honest person. And if they don't like it, they'd have to tell you why. People say, it doesn't matter. It might not. But they'd have to tell you why. People who are not honest don't know. And then people equate that with jealousy. Well, it's fear. It's fear. And God said fear not 365 times in the Bible. He didn't say it to be funny. He didn't say it to shame us. He said it to relate to us. We would need it at least once a day to remind us. Why? Because lots of negative feelings lead back to an ultimate fear. That's your homework, guys. Law Art Sheer Passion. Don't forget to plug into my blog. It's hysterical. It's more hysterical than me on video. SHEER 2, the number 2. Is it Sheer Passion to blog at blogspot.com? Sheer Passion to blog at blogspot.com. SHEER. Passion, PASSION, the number 2, blog at blogspot.com. Thanks so much, guys. I'm on this journey with you. Have a great week.